This quick tutorial is really geared towards it could be geared towards people that have never used Max before, or also people that have used it. Um, but what my whole point here with this tutorial is, one, going to be as quick as possible, and two is to just show you some things that are good to know, and things that I do that really should make you a little more proficient with using Max. Little shortcuts, tricks, tips, what have you. Um, Obviously, Alt W is a shortcut to excuse me, go full screen here. And if you didn't know about our toolbar, depending on the resolution your monitor is set to, you're probably not seeing all of it, so we can put our mouse until we see our hand and manipulate the UI. And that concept is the same for anything on our UI, that when you see the hand, click and you can move it. Okay, we can pull off our modifier. So let's say if I made me a box and convert it to an editable poly, notice we can start to see more of our rollouts. That's a big one. Subdivision surface, paint deformation. So these are all things that we can access by pulling out our view. Okay. Many people probably didn't know that. Something else, if we go to our box basic creation parameters, as we see, we can make it like that. But you can also change the creation method to cube and just drag out a box. Okay. W, E, and R are the hotkeys for our main move tools. Rotate. So move is W, E is rotate, and R is scale. Really important to get those down so we can spend time really kind of rolling through our modeling or creation process. Okay, F is our front view. F3 is our wireframe, to view wireframe or not to view it. P goes back to perspective. L is our left view. R obviously isn't right view because it is scale. And the other ones that are good to know of is holding down the V key, and in anywhere your mouse is, we can access all of our views. Okay, so if I want to get to my right view now, just hold down V and go right to the right view. Go to the left view, go to bottom. Okay, so they're really good to know. We don't have any cameras, but we do have a perspective view. Okay. Also, I'm going to go ahead and make me a cylinder. Okay. And something that's really important is understanding what this can do for you. Okay. This is your reference coordinate system. Okay. Right now it's set to rotate in the view reference coordinate system. And view, we can look down here and see our axes. And as I rotate my view around, which by the way, in case you don't know, I'm rotating right now. The tool I'm accessing right now basically is this tool down here. Okay, and notice I have mine set to the yellow one, which, as we see over here, is arc rotate sub object. By default it is set on arc rotate. So as I rotate around, we don't really see that much of a difference, but let's say we're looking at our scene like this and we rotate. Okay, we're rotating around the entire scene. Okay, if we set it on the next one, arc rotate selected, we're not selected on anything, so if we select it now, we see that the view is rotating around this object. Okay. The third option, which is the sub-object is for, let's say we were actually modeling and we were in here. Okay, if we are on this one and we rotate, notice it's acting the same way the first one did when we were, not in sub-object mode. So the yellow one is actually going to rotate around that particular object in space. Therefore, I like to leave it on the yellow one because that gives us this ability to rotate all the time. So I'm rotating, I'm actually accessing this tool, but yet my move tool is still active because I'm holding down the Alt key and pressing and rolling the middle mouse. Not rolling, but rolling the mouse, moving the mouse while pressing the middle mouse button. Okay, so while I'm rotating in my view coordinate system, I can see that these axes are changing for us as we rotate around, so we can always see where the z-axis is, we can always see where the x and y-axis is, which is nice. The same thing occurs for the move tool, and move, rotate, and scale can all have different settings. So for example, let's say I have my move tool set to view. I go to rotate, and we have a lot of other options to pick from. The main thing that I want you to be concerned with here is view or local. Those are the big ones. So as we see, I go back to my move tool, it goes back to view. I go to rotate, it goes to local. So what does that do for us? Well, if I set this, let's say I rotate it about here, and quickly I can now see that I'm rotating on the y-axis and hundredths of a degree. Okay, well how can I rotate it just 45 degrees? Okay, come right here, turn on my angle snap toggle. So just like I always set this one to be the yellow rotate tool, I'll come into max and I'll make sure my angle snap toggles are on. So now when I rotate, it rotates by 5 degrees very easily. I can get 90 degrees, 180, 270, whatever. So we'll set it to 45. And if I move, go to my move tool, we'll see my gizmo is facing this direction. If I set it to local, notice it pops to actually face the direction of the object. Same thing if I set my rotation, take a look at my gizmo here, and now see how it pops to the object and actually follows the object. So as the object rotates, we can always see which way rotating on the y-axis is going to move the object, the x-axis, or the z-axis. So move, rotate, and scale. Same thing with local. Or for the scale, we can scale it locally. And it's really hard to get that look when an object's rotated, because if we tried to scale it in view coordinates with it rotated like that, we get some very different results. So things that are really good to know, believe me. Also notice when I change my rotate tool back to view, if I go back to local, notice my coordinates down here are showing me zeros across the board. Well, it's obvious that this has been rotated. If we go back to view, we can actually see the parameters of that rotation, and obviously we can affect it here, reset it by right clicking on any spinner. Any spinner that you see in Max can be reset by typing in 0. So now our object has been completely reset on the rotation. So we've covered the angle snaps, rotations, some of the basic hotkeys for getting into objects, our viewing objects. We have our looked at the creation method, both cube and box, and why they're good. You know, the one of the last things that I want to show you that is really good to know is a feature that was new to Macs about 3 or 4 versions ago, and that is this auto grid option. And so let's say I'm going to come into box, I'm going to do a cylinder. Okay, if I try to create a cylinder without auto grid, let's say I wanted to create it right here, notice it actually is creating it on this grid plane, the home grid, and it did not create it on the top of it. So now, in order to get it on top of my box, I've got to move it and position it. Okay, well, with turning on auto grid, we see that as I move my gizmo, our gizmo changes. What up is, what direction is up. Z's up here, Z's that way, Z's that way. Okay, Z's that way. So what that means is I can actually create right on the surface, like so, with auto grid on. I can even get in here. Create another one right there. Create one right there. Let me just do this all day long. Okay, that would not be that quick to model a scene like this without auto grid. The last thing as you see here is our actually seeing the wireframe with the shaded look on top. That's good for always seeing how many segments we have in our objects. Okay, so I'm going to go File Reset, which is better than go File New, because if you go File New, do you want to save your changes? No. And then it says, well, how do you want to make a new scene? New objects and hierarchy, new objects, or new all? Okay, I want a new all. Okay, notice it didn't reset my view. Okay, so technically didn't reset everything. So if I go File Reset, do you really want to reset? Yes. Now we're back to as if we just opened Max. Okay, so one more time, the last thing that I want to talk about is actually using our F4 to see our segments and what that means. Okay, we create an object, we go to the Modify tab. Okay, and here we have our basic parameters, and I can lower how many sides we have for an object and height segments. Okay, so let's say I have this cylinder and I'm going to apply a bend modifier to it, and I can see my modifiers show me it should be looking like this, but because I don't have any height segments, it's not going to look like that. Okay, so these are some other things that you need to consider when you are doing modeling. As we can see right here, there's our cap segments. Okay, and our sides obviously isn't going to change much because of the bend modifier, but our height segments, it changes it dramatically. And you want to stay away from more segments than necessary. Okay, I can see the arch being made. It's still being made. So like right here, that shape is pretty much formed, and it doesn't really change regardless of how many of these that I add. And obviously this is overkill, because all we're going to see is this. So 200 or 2, there's a big difference, but when you start getting like 10, 12, you're not really seeing much change here. So you need to keep that in mind as well. And that's about it for some of the basics, things that you can use that I think actually help you use Max. One last thing I'm going to throw in here is, so we already know about our local and view rotations. Okay, but right now this object is not really, let's imagine if this object was being thrown through the air, right, and it was flipping end over end. if we were to try to animate that, as it stands right now, we want to rotate it. The object is rotating around its base, not its center. Right? If this object was flying through the air, it would be rotating around the center of the object. We can do that by going to the Hierarchy tab and clicking on Effect Pivot Only, and then clicking Center to Object. So we see the pivot point jumped up. Now we turn off Effect Pivot Only, and now it rotates around the center. Okay. This pivot point can also be moved anywhere you like. So I affect it, move it where I want, turn it off. Now it rotates around the pivot point. Okay. So these are things that are good to know. And the last thing would be if I want to copy this object. Okay. Now that I've altered the pivot point, I'm going to go to Rotate. I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to drag out a copy. And I see that I'm rotated in hundredths of a degree, so I'm going to go Cancel. I'm going to turn on my angle snaps, and let's go 25 degrees. And it's saying, okay, you're going to copy instance of reference. I'm going to say copy, and give me 10. Okay, I hope that y'all see that and how cool that can be. So just copying objects. If we wanted more, we could right click on it, go clone, or we can hold shift and move or rotate the object. And each time it's going to ask us how many do we want and what kind do we want. So if I wanted a whole bunch of these spheres lined up, I can say give me 10, and it gives me 10. So that's going to be about it for now. Just some really basic things here. I hope will make you a little more comfortable using Max. Some simple things that I've used since the beginning that I think are good to know. Okay, one more thing. And I'm going to, as far as selecting objects, if I want to select objects, obviously select, hold control, and now I can select multiple. If I have, or I can make a marquee like this, I can hold Alt and deselect an object, and that's because of my region selection. Click and hold, okay, I can make a circular selection. If I do this one, notice I can actually get very particular about what I would like to see selected. This one is a draw. Give me that one, or those. Okay, and the other thing that's important to know is this next one, the window crossing. Okay, you have two options. Okay, the little black circle's outside or it's inside. And what that means is right now it's set to everything that's within the selection window. So that object obviously is completely inside the selection window, so it selects it. It is not now, nor is that one, so it's not going to select either. That one is, that one isn't, that one is. It selects those two. And then the last one here we have painting. Notice with this one set to everything inside the window, so just left click and drag the mouse, we can actually paint a selection. So again, if it even touches it, it's going to select it because of this. And this one, it has to be completely inside the selection to be selected. It's good to know, very useful. And that's going to be it for now. Those are really some of the basic things. I'm looking to see if there's anything else I really want to talk about right now. Okay, let's say that these two objects are going to be very particular for me. And let's say I want to have them grouped, so I could come up here and group them. So now I can move these guys and manipulate them as a group and do all kinds of wonderful things. But let's say I don't really care so much that they're grouped so I can move them at the same time. But maybe I want them kind of grouped together so that I can apply the same materials to them. Well, what I can do is select these two guys, and this empty slot here is our selection sets, and we don't have any right now. So let's call this, just type in there cylinders 1, hit enter. Okay, they're still separate no matter where I move them, no matter what I do to them, but I can still come up here and select cylinders 1, and it's always going to select those two. That's called our selection sets, and it's just a really quick way of selecting multiple things very quickly. And that's going to be it, I promise. Looking one more time. That's good enough for now. Anything else I'll cover in another one. Alright, so I hope that this was informative for you and you got something out of it. Just some little things that are important to know when it comes to using Max. That should help you. Alright, keep using Max.